I'm Susan. Welcome to TN Games. And a special welcome to new subscribers because we've gotten a whole bunch of them. And I think that's nifty. I'm glad you're here. My husband Robert and I are just casual board gamers. We have a modest board game collection. We usually play on weekends. Our gameplay skewers toward light, but there are some exceptions. And I'll get to that in a minute. The tea today, which is too hot to drink, and I have learned my lesson and will not burn my mouth and scream on camera. The tea today is Brody's Scottish breakfast because I feel like I need something that's a real eye-opener, kick-in-the-butt kind of tea, which will also fog my glasses. How fun is that? Okay, so what happened last weekend? Now, those of you who have been watching the channel know that the previous video were games we wanted to play this weekend. Games we really, really like, but just haven't gotten off the shelf and need to table. They aren't unplayed games. They're games we play and like that just don't hit the table too often. So that was the plan. But what actually happened was that on the local Discord, there was some chatter about a not quite friendly local game store that had the Alpine expansion for Forest Shuffle. Ooh. So yeah, this is something I've been waiting for a while because we both like Forest Shuffle. And so I thought, and they've still got some in stock, even after all the chatter. I think there may still be some. This was a game store that we have been to once before, but since it isn't really actually close, we hadn't been there like in a while or regularly. It's not our FLGS. We just decided to make an outing of it, grabbed my niece, who picked up some cards there, and went out for Tex-Mex and hit the game store to get the Alpine expansion, which is in such a teeny tiny box. It was kind of hard to find, but we did. So that first, okay, this is 36 cards. That's not a lot. So, I mean, if you wanted, the game comes with, this massive stack of cards. So, I mean, if you were expecting the expansion to be a massive stack of cards, no, 36 cards, but they're very good cards. Is this going to utterly transform the game? Probably not, but it's going to give you a few more options. Like you really need more options with this game because this is like massive combo high scoring thing. So anyhow, important stuff. It will fit into the base game box. It will not fit into the card slots for the base game box because the base game box has, you take out board, little book. The base game box has these 3 card slots here. I don't know if you can tell, but yeah, there's like 3 little indented slots there. They're not going to fit in there. If you add them to them, you can see that there's going to be some cards left sliding around. Those are actually, I think, base game cards because I like to keep winter separate so I don't have to hunt for it when I set up the game. But you can see this fits in perfectly. You're gonna have several loose cards sliding around. If that doesn't bug you, it's gonna fit into this box just fine. What do you get? Ooh, you get 36 cards, which include 14 new trees, 12 cards, new animals that are top-bottom cards, and 10 cards that are left-right cards. Now, they do have some slight setup changes to make adjustments in number of cards in the deck per player level, because you make adjustments in the regular base game, so it stands to reason you're going to make adjustments here because 36 more cards. But we did, I think, see all of the new cards in our one playthrough of this, because, of course, we brought it home and played it. New gameplay, we will have a bearded vulture, which is a third card that can put some cards into your cave besides the brown bear and raccoon cards, which do that. You have oak and strawberries. Let's see, alpine larch. There are now 2 additional tree species, the alpine larch and the Swiss pine, but oak and strawberry still only require 8 different tree species. So if you're going for that one of each thing, you won't have to shoot for a higher number. That's what it is with the oak and strawberries. Butterflies, it does add an extra butterfly, which means you now can collect up to 6 different butterflies. I came up 1 short of having the complete set. Mountain hare. Now the mountain hare will count as a European hare, but it can't share cards with the European hare. But the mountain and European hares are scored together. You do have some new tree symbols, a thing that marks the Alpine expansion if you want to separate it out, which we're not going to do because it works so well with the base game, and the Alpine larch and Swiss pine tree symbols for paying for cards with those things. We like that. We liked it a lot. We played it with the base game. We had a really good game. And I was actually able to optimize, what is it, that fir tree in which you can score for the number of cards around. I was able to pack a whole bunch of hares in it, though obviously not the new hare. There are some cards in there that work really well with the base game, like there's one that will give you an extra thing that counts as tree fern plant for things like, I think it's salamanders that score for those, because I scored with it, but that was several days ago. So anyhow, we are pleased with it. It's staying in the base game box, and it will stay shuffled in with the base game. Is it a must-have expansion? I don't know. I don't think so. But at the same time, if you really like this game, having 36 different cards to shuffle in and change up gameplay if you feel like gameplay is getting a little samey. Although, I don't know, it's like every time I play this game, there's only been a couple of times where I've been able to use the same strategy, because a lot of what you decide to go for sort of depends upon the kind of stuff that you're drawing. So yeah, there are sometimes I'm going like, wow, that worked so well in the last game. I am totally doing that again. And I'm going like, and I'm not drawing any of the cards I need to do that. So yeah, you got to have a little bit of flexibility, but there are basically, you can come up with winning combos like all over the place, no matter what you do. And this just gives you a little bit more variety. And it was kind of neat to see the deck freshened up with some new faces. But you know, I'm kind of a sucker for getting expansions that are going to give me more cards for a game that I like. And that's one of the things that the expansions that are most attractive to me personally is if I've got an expansion that's got a bunch of cards that forms core gameplay and everything, and I can just get more cards that basically will freshen up the deck that I'm using, give me more good stuff. I like that. And so I like the Alpine Shuffle, the Alpine expansion for Forest Shuffle. But it is a very, very tiny box. So if you're looking for it in your local game store, don't be looking for nothing like this. It's small. So we went for one expansion, but I thought, well, since we're here and this is a game store that we rarely go to, I should probably pick up something else. Like, I have stuff on my wish list. And, well, actually, I should go back to that small box thing. When we were rummaging through the small stuff, Robert spotted this. Gloom in space, which is one of the few variations of gloom that we don't have. I think we don't want the Game of Thrones gloom, because we're just not into that, and we don't have the fairy tale gloom. But I think those may be the only ones we're missing now, because we've got gloom in space. If you like gloom and you like sci-fi parodies, like Star Munchkin, would be a sci-fi parody, then you would like Gloom in Space. We got that to the table last weekend. It's like, oh yeah, because it is very funny. Essentially, it has all of the sort of dark humor, storytelling fun of the regular Gloom, only in space. Yeah, and this is a standalone game, not an expansion. There are Gloom expansions, and then there are Gloom standalone games with a different theme from the regular, and that's what this is. This is a standalone game. So, though you can integrate it into the other deck, you just kind of got to be aware that your story is going to be suddenly in space for some reason on certain turns. So I'm not really sure that that would work with the storytelling aspects of this, but it's good fun, particularly if you are really into science fiction pop culture. It's got a lot of sci-fi pop culture references. And I total props to Robert for spotting this when we were looking for small boxes that had the expansion box in it, and he found this. So we're very happy with that. This here is our big box of Gloom, which has little dividers for all the different types of Gloom, and that is where it will live with all of the rest of our Gloom. All of our Gloom in one box. Okay, then we get to the stuff that was actually on my wish list. Though if I had thought about it, I would have put Gloom in Space on my list. Let's go to Japan. Some of you may have backed the Kickstarter for this. I looked at the Kickstarter, I looked at the game playthroughs. I really liked the look of the game. I liked the way, what I saw of the gameplay from the prototype previews when the Kickstarter was out there. I just thought that this would be a fun travel game. We have not yet played it. We got it last weekend and we have not yet played it. But yeah, it was on my wish list. And this is one of those games that after dithering about it a little bit, it is published by AEG. And I knew this will go to retail. Do I absolutely positively have to have some kind of a deluxeified Kickstarter edition of it, or will I be happy just having the base game, like the regular game with regular components? And the answer is yes, I will be happy. I think I will. I like that kind of retro look of the rules book here. I opened it up and punched everything. I do want to mention one thing about the thingies that I punched. Yeah, you got some tokens here that are very, very similar. This, I do not think that this will be a problem during gameplay. Nobody's mentioned it as being a problem. You just got to be aware of it when you are punching the things. And I've got these things sorted by colors because you will need certain things to start off with your starting colors. But you have tokens that have the same icons on them. And it's like a set of different icons. And these two tokens are not the same. This one does one thing in the game and this one does something else. Though they look very similar, the difference is this is just a little bit thicker. And if you can see here very closely, it's like about 1/8 of an inch bigger. So yeah, when I was punching all these things, all of these tokens of a certain kind, we've got flower tokens and we got food tokens and we got souvenir tokens and we've got a whole bunch of these different tokens. And so I just put them in a pile together. And I noticed that the backside of some of them were different from the others. And I thought, that's odd, must just be different cardboard colors. And then when I started going through the rule book and trying to match the components to make sure I had everything, I realized that they are, even though they look exactly alike, except one is a little bit thicker and double-sided and just about 1/8 of an inch bigger, they're not the same thing. So that is something for you to be aware of when you are punching and bagging. I don't think it will be a problem in the gameplay. But yeah, because nobody's mentioned it's a problem. I will get back to you on that after we have played it. I sorted a lot of these things by player color based upon setup, because we're not going to be playing all colors all the time. We don't have a regular like 4-player game group. I think it plays up to 4, yes. So I just bagged all of the starting elements per player color, so that way we just grab the bags that we will use when we take it out and play it. I'll let you know how well that works. But we're looking forward to playing this. It seems like a nice summer game because people travel in the summer. And there you go. Let's go to Japan. I'm sure most of you have already heard of it. It's not going to be a huge shock about that. Now, what may surprise, had I left the rule book out? I do that, and Robert's gotten to the point where he is teasing me, and I left another player component out. Robert's gotten to the point where he teases me about the fact that I am these go like rule book, because it's like I packed everything away, and anyhow, another thing that was kind of at the bottom of my wish list that I spotted at the game store was the Pursuit of Happiness. This is supposedly like the game of life that you played as a kid, only much, much better, because you have more agency and choice, as I understand it, and you've got a lot of options. It actually is a strategy game rather than being something that's just on rails and you have to do whatever you're stuck with. A lot of different people have mentioned how much they really enjoy this game. And I kind of go like, do we really need a life clone? And it's like, but I just keep hearing people mentioning this as just one of those just nice little games that they just really, really enjoy playing. And that is very satisfying and plays really well. And the most recent person to mention this game to me was Rogue Calypso. Hey! Anyhow, she comments down below, and I wish you would too, whoever is out there listening, because I like chatting with people in comments, and I've had some really interesting discussions in which they found out about stuff that they didn't know, and I found out about stuff that I didn't know. So the interchange between me and commenters can be pretty good sometimes. So give it a try. Anyhow, Rogue Calypso mentioned this in comments, I think on the last video. And then, you know, I turned the corner and there it was at the game store. And I had put it on like the bottom of the wish list thing as kind of thinking about it. Because the Board Game Stats app, you can grade your wish list from thinking about it, like to have, love to have, must have. They also have a category for don't buy this, which I find hilarious. Anyhow, but I mean, if you see a lot of games over a long period of time, you may lose track of what games that you play a lot of games more than we do. You could theoretically lose track of games that you've decided, whoa, no, I'll never do that again kind of thing. So I can kind of see the don't buy this thing. But yeah, this was like at the very bottom of the wish list, but there it was. And here's the thing. I'd never seen this game before. As much as I'd heard people saying, you know, I really enjoy this game, I'd never actually laid eyes on it. So I just thought, oh, what the hey? And we got it. So this is another one that you will be hearing my thoughts on in the future, because we will try to get it played. And something I saw there, which is another game that I laid eyes on in person for the very first time. Let me see, did I? Yeah. Excuse me. Evacuation. And you're going like, what? Because we don't play heavy Euros. We don't like heavy Euros. This is a heavy Euro. This is a new heavy Euro. We are also generally not buying newish games because we are not all about the hotness. And yet we have Let's Go to Japan and Evacuation, which are still moderately hot. The hotness cools so rapidly in the board game industry. But yeah, it's originally published by Delicious Games, and over here in the US, it's Rio Grande Games. And those of you who know us know that we are a sucker for a good theme. It's another reason why I'm kind of going Pursuit of Happiness. It's like the game of life, because that theme just kind of makes me go, really? But yeah, we'll give it a shot. But space themes we like. And we like games that are very immersive in terms of gameplay and theme integration. And the first time I heard about this game, I thought, ooh, that sounds amazing. It sounds really interesting. The concept is that, well, you can see, the concept is that you have, you know how like Euro games, you've got to build up production? In this game, you have got like all of your production and your people and your resources and factories and all this stuff on your planet. You've got this great functioning economy and a happy population on this planet. But the sun is coming way, 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 way too close. And you are going to have to move your population and your production and your factories and all of your entertainment venues, bread and circuses, keep those people happy. You got to move them to another planet far enough away from the sun so that they're not going to get cooked. So you have this satellite track that you go on, which determines where you go on the other planet to some extent as you cross these markers, and it does other stuff because this is a complex game. It is complicated, and it's like the whole idea of it, it's like I'm reading about this and I'm seeing like little things about it, and I'm thinking, wow, this is like a little science fiction novel in a box. And then I started getting feedback on the Board Game Geek weight, and I'm going like, and it's a heavy euro. And I start seeing stuff about how it's played, and I'm going like, I don't know if we can learn this. It's complicated. It's not an easy teach, easy learn kind of game. You got to like figure out how to play it. But I just couldn't stop thinking about it. Do you ever just get some game that just gets hooked into your head and you're thinking like, that game would be such a bad fit for us, but I can't stop thinking about it? This has happened to me on a couple of other occasions with kind of mixed results. So, when I saw the game at the store, I let it go because I am smart. I do my research on games. I know that this game is not a good fit for us. It's not a surefire win. And I know that I have a really bad track record with impulse purchases. My husband, Robert, has a really just kind of smack your head stupidly good track record with impulse purchases. He does no research at all. He just walks into a game store, looks at something and goes, well, that looks good, and pulls it off the shelf, and it's a good game. And I don't know how he does that. Because if I just go, ooh, shiny, and buy something, then it's going to tank when we put it on the table, like 9 times out of 10. So I've learned to like research and dither and think about it and wring my hands over the whole purchase thing. Because for another thing, board games are not cheap. You want to make sure that you're getting something that will work. So I hadn't talked to Robert about evacuation because, what was the point? This game is like out of our league. I'm not sure if we could learn how to play it. I'm not sure if we would like it if we could learn how to play it. It just seems like this fascinating concept that we would both basically love the idea of the game, though whether or not we will actually like the game is something else. But after we got home, Robert kept asking me about it, like, do you regret leaving it behind? Is this something that you really want? Should we have gotten that? And I kept going. I explained to him that this game is not our type of game. It is a heavy euro. We have a few heavy euros in our collection, which we like, but there are a lot of heavy euros out there that I've watched playthroughs of them, and they make me want to run screaming out of the room. So yeah, I'm just going like, there's some problems with this. there's a very good chance that we'll have a lot of difficulty learning it. There's a very good chance that we are just going to really just completely and totally tank, both of us, in trying to rescue our populace and set up a new civilization on a new planet. It's like everybody's going to die. This is not a co-op game, so... I mean, I think if it were a co-op game, that between the two of us, we might be able to save the population, but I don't know. But he just kept asking me about it, and he's just Googling like mad while we're having this conversation. So I said, okay, right. I will show you some of the videos that I watched on it that kind of got me hooked on it. So I showed him Amy and Maggie's video where they talked about the gameplay, and I showed him another video which showed like how to play the game. I think it was Meeple University's How to Play, and I showed him another video in which we watched like the first few rounds of the turns of everything, and Robert said, I think we should go for it. I think we should give it a shot. It looks really interesting. Like me, he was fascinated by the whole novelistic sci-fi concept of it, basically starting off with a functioning economy on one planet, dismantling it and moving it and the people onto another planet and getting it functioning again. So he was in. He wanted to give it a try. So I said... And of course, he does have a much better track record for impulse purchasing. And honestly, I think he had already clicked the buy button online on a site before, because he found a good price for it. He's telling me, well, we could get it even less than what we had seen it for before. And he's like, shopping and everything. And I'm going, I think he had already bought it before I said, okay, yeah, right. We will give it a try. But as I said, my track record with this kind of thing is so bad. Oh, so bad. When we first got into the board game hobby, little shiny newbies who didn't know anything about modern board gaming, we're still deeply into theme. So I wanted to learn how to play Terraforming Mars. So we put Terraforming Mars off on the table, and we couldn't figure out how to play it. We were like newbies. We had played Catan and some really light, simpler games even, and we couldn't figure out how to play it. We didn't know what we were looking at. I'm looking at these cards and I'm going like, and these icons, what does that mean? And what does this mean? And does that mean that? And would that count for that? And I have no idea what that card means. And we're looking at these things and it was just like mass confusion. We couldn't even start to play the game because we were just sort of frozen in terror because the whole thing laid out on the board and all of these different cards and actions and cubes and moving and production. It's like we had no idea what we were looking at even. It didn't look like anything we had ever seen before in our lives. And we were just sort of frozen in place. But my fascination with Terraforming Mars continued. I don't know, the whole science-y concept of it, the fact that these cards seem to have some basis in science and what you're trying to do in getting oxygen and water and production and building out stuff on the planet, it just fascinated me. And I still really, really wanted to know how to play it. So I got the app and I learned how to play it from the app. I was just really determined to learn how to play the game. And I was right. It's wonderful. Robert has never played the game. It was like that first time seeing it on the table was just, that was it. He's like, I'm out. And so I play Terraforming Mars almost every day on the app and very, very happy with it. I love the game. It is one of my all-time favorite games. But it doesn't hit the table because Robert doesn't play it, but I still keep getting table expansions for it because I'm still thinking one of these days I will be able to teach it to him and he won't freak out by the level, the number of things and the complexity and the production and all that. Though I really feel like the app is the best way to play it in some ways, because it does all that production stuff for you so smoothly. You don't even have to think about it. And I figured out what everything did and how stuff worked just by simply trial and error. I would do stuff and see what the app did with it. So the other game that I became fascinated with, which I didn't think would be a good fit for us, but it just looks so interesting, is Root. And I watched video after video after video after video on it. I mean, I can't even count the number. There were weeks where I was utterly immersed in Root videos and Root how to play videos. So I thought, okay, I'll do this the way I did Terraforming Mars, because a lot of people say that the best way to learn Root, like Terraforming Mars, is to get the app. That the app has an excellent tutorial and you can learn how to play the game that way. So I got the app, and that was, I don't know, well over a year ago now, and haven't finished the tutorial. I can't get through the tutorial. I literally cannot be taught how to play this game. I started the tutorial and I thought, okay, yes, I understand that. And the tutorial will not let you advance to learning the next faction until you have reached some level of competence or understanding of whatever faction it's trying to teach you, and it teaches you the factions one at a time. So I got through the first one, and I think it was the second or third faction I got stuck on. And so I started doing it, and it's like I tank every time, and I can't advance in the tutorial and learn the rest of the game until I learn this one little bit, which seemingly it is impossible for me to learn. And after hitting my head against that wall for months, it kind of killed my desire to play Root. I'm over it now. And then comes Evacuation, another game which is not our kind of game in terms of like complexity, heavy Euro, all about moving widgets around and production and stuff like that. And I just became utterly fascinated with it. And now I have sucked Robert into my fascination, and we're going to give it a shot. I don't think we're going to get to Evacuation this weekend. Which brings me to, what are we going to play this weekend? Well, we could play the games on the list in the previous video of games we want to play this summer. Games we already love and haven't gotten to the table in a while. But then there's all these other games we got, like Pursuit of Happiness and, Let's Go to Japan. We've already played Gloom in Space. We played the Alpine expansion. So we could play those. I think we probably still need to do more learning to be able to get into Evacuation. So I don't know what we're going to play this weekend. It's possible this might hit the table, and it's possible that this might hit the table. But unlikely that this will. But there's all those other games I mentioned in the previous video. So yeah, I don't know what we're going to play. So I have 2 questions for you as I wrap up this video. How do you decide what you're going to play on any given weekend? Or any given day or evening or whatever? I realize evenings are kind of easy to decide, because it's like end of a long day, we're totally exhausted, we want to play something light and very short. But weekends when we might have a chunk of time to play a bigger game, how do you decide what games to play if you got some time to play games? And also, and this is something I'm really curious about, have you ever just gotten sort of fascinated with a game? Maybe a game that's just, you haven't played it, you just see stuff about it, you just kind of become fascinated with a game that you think maybe perhaps is all wrong for you, and you can't stop thinking about it and watching videos about it. And how did that turn out? Because I have to admit, my track record on that of games I have become utterly fascinated with is not good. I mean, I learned to play Terraforming Mars, and it's one of my all-time favorite games. I love it, love it, love it on the app. But it has not been tabled because I haven't taught Robert how to play it yet. So it's still kind of a halfway hash fail. And Root was like a total hash fail. I mean, I could not even make it through the tutorial. So my track record for games I've become fascinated with that are all wrong for me, but Terraforming Mars turned out it wasn't actually all wrong for me. So maybe thinking of them that way is not a right way of thinking about it. But tell me about games you've become fascinated with, and you've got them and you put them on the table, and what happened. I would be interested to hear that, along with how you decide what you're going to play when you have a nice chunk of time to play games. Because, we got a lot of games that we want to play. And it's just one weekend, like, at a time, I'm not going to try to plan too far ahead because, things happen. Like, we go to game stores and get games. So, yeah, it kind of blew up my what I want to play for the next few weekends list. So, tell me what you think about what we've gotten and just how crazy you think I am for getting Evacuation, which is a heavy Euro, and we don't play heavy Euros. And it's been good sitting around the table talking with y'all. I hope you have had fun too. Thank you. Shout out again to Rogue Calypso for tipping me off to Pursuit of Happiness. We will get it to the table. I just don't know when. And I will see all of y'all next time around the table.